The apparent negative impact on property values is analyzed by the Lincoln Township Zoning Administrator resulted in following, and this is based on a 100-point scale. Sales within 1 mile of turbines, incremental decline of 26 points. Sales outside of 1 mile from turbines, incremental decline of 18 points. Other health issues with residents were observed, headaches, nausea, that stuff. This was from 2001. This article that I read actually had a contact name in it, the Lincoln Township clerk, and it had a telephone number. And I called this telephone number, and surprisingly enough, it's the same person, and this person, Dale Massey, is still the Lincoln Township clerk. I didn't talk to him, he had just went to their township meeting, but I talked to his wife, and she has told me that this moratorium is still in existence today. She said that it's their intent that they will not have any more wind turbines built in this area. And I don't know all of the issues, but just based on the report and her comment, that was the take on that. I have a lot more documents at home. I have World Health Organization documents, a couple different ones. I haven't had time to read through them yet. So
right. Well, that's what I mean. I
still have more to share with the committee.
Right. And I got more that's coming, but we did these, and there's more to do. But maybe we should pick up the pace and go every 2 weeks. Do you think? Because we got to pick up the pace and meet, because we're going through all this stuff. I mean, that way we can do a little bulk. We've taken 2 hours to go through all this stuff. And yeah. I know we had a month, and it was Easter and everything else, you know, and giving time for the people to turn in the stuff for the impacts. But I think we need to speed up the process to go every 2 weeks. My personal feeling, but I think what we've come up with so far is pretty interesting information.
And I agree. I think we need to continue, you know, trying to drill into information and find it, and really, you know, try to associate it with what we have here, you know, our environment, the developers that we have, you know, and try to correlate this information to what we need to gather to roll up to our township board.
Well, I also suggest for the people in the community also is that you go out and sit on your porch in the morning when the sun comes up and sit out there for the 20 minutes or 30 minutes and watch the shadows of the tallest structure on your property and listen to the noise you have then, and then just imagine it being doubled basically. I mean, if you're only doubling, that's only 10 decibels. So just, I mean, I don't know if you can imagine that, but going and looking at the shadows, if you have a barn or a tree, your tallest tree is between 50 and 60 feet, barns are 40 to 50, a silo is 60 feet, you know, your house might be 30 feet. So just look out and see how far those shadows travel, how far across off your property, and see how it does, you know, in the evening then, the last 30 minutes. They're saying it's 30 minutes potentially, 20 to 30 minutes, you know, but if you go and use the figures, they're saying 30 hours a year. If you go 20 minutes, if it was only 20 minutes a day and you only got it one on the side of the house, that'd be 90 days a year you could be affected if you only had it on one side of the house. So at 20 minutes a day, they're saying that's acceptable to have it on 90 days a year. But if you go with the higher statistics in the American Wind Energy Association, if you're about 1,000 feet, then they're saying up to 600 hours a year. Now, if they use morning and night, you're still going to have that 150 days out, or basically 150 days out of the year if I did the math right. So 150, or no, is it? Yeah, something like that. If you did it 20 minutes a day, it'd be 600 days a year, so that couldn't happen. So obviously they split it in two, and it's basically they're made in 20-minute increments, so it'd be what, 300 days or 200, 150, whatever. Somewhere in between those numbers, but what I'm saying is that it's still, you know, right now you don't have it, you know, and you have to, just as a citizen, go out and just imagine, try to imagine what you have out there. You know, I know it doesn't happen all the time, but if you go up to 90 days a year of it, you know, because they're saying it's only 20 minutes a day or 20 minutes at one period. It could happen twice a day if you have it on both sides of your house.
Yeah.
So,
now, placement of the turbines would really have the effect on that. because it's, you know, the shadow flicker is going to occur only when the sun reaches a certain point. And then if the house is in line with that.
Exactly, but with the 130-degree angle off of that, not the 90, and like it said in the American Wind Energy Association, that's a big, I mean.
That's a big area.
Big area, it's a big area that it'll cover, because especially if you have one, if you're north, on your east-west, if you're a north-south road, you have more potential than you're on an east-west road, because other neighboring properties can affect that. But you're on north-south, you may have one over in this field that gets you in the spring, but over here, these over in this field may get you in the summer. You know, I know they're trying to keep it under, I mean, they're offering under 30 hours, you know, under 30 hours a year, but when you think about that in days, I mean, are you, you gotta deal with that, how many days in your life? It's not just, oh, it's only 20 minutes, don't worry about it, you can deal with it.
Well, the other thing that we have here too is we have multiple companies coming in with project proposals.
Right, well, I think if they need to put the sensor on the house and the sensor up in the cell. Because they got computer software and being on the cutting edge, and they can continue to claim that it's cutting edge stuff, but they need to go and spend the money to go and put that up in the sensors up there. They go, and if you get it on your property, it shuts down. Why is that so hard to go and do? I mean, it's not gonna cost them that much money. I mean, they're throwing around money like crazy, so, I mean, it won't cost them that much money to add that stuff to go and make it, so that way, that goes and takes one less impact off everybody's shoulders.
Question for either Larry or Exelon people. Has there been any discussions with the other companies as far as, I'm in a situation where I might have two companies, one company on one side of my house, one company on the other, a different company. Has anybody been talking together, sharing information to try to address, you know, like this, shadow flicker? I mean, I don't want to have one company that's got a limit of 30 and the company behind me have a limit of 30. I could end up with 60 to 100. I can have multiples based on that.
And the other, one of the companies already saying they only want 1,000-foot setback and 55 day and 50 at night, or something to that effect, wasn't it 50 and 45, one or the other, so they already want larger noise limits, and with their placement of them at 1,000 feet, they're gonna have more than the 2 to 3 per square mile that, you know, that these guys have been proposing. They've been promising 2 to 3 per square mile.
Yeah, well,
is what Doug Boomering's been proposing all along.
Yeah.
But that doesn't prevent the other company from putting 2 to 3 per square mile, or the other one, Orasol, putting 2 to 3 per square mile. So then you're at 6 to 9 per square mile.
But I think what we need to do is, I think that, and this is something that the Township Board of Trustees would have to you know, take care of. But the regulations would, if they enact regulations, then it should help to address those issues.
Right, I know that Jim Gates had talked to me before the previous township board meeting about limiting, if there was any way that we look into limiting the developers to 2 to 3 per square mile per section. He did mention that to me. And I know one way that is possible is going, by doing the figures and the math, that you can go at 1,800 off an occupiable structure. 1,800 feet gets it out there, and then with the decibel limit at 40 to the occupiable structure, overall that'll push them back to where they can get 2 to 3 per square mile still. And that's what Jim Gates had asked me before the previous meeting, to try limiting them, because his fear is that with the setbacks of, obviously, as this is an assumption, but he wanted to ask about keeping them 2 to 3 per square mile, and being the township supervisor, I'm willing to, you know, bet that that's what he wants to go with, so, you know, and that's what he's looking into.
Yeah, and what we would come up, you know, what we'd come up with would be.
He's only one person.
I know, I'm just saying that's what he asked, about 2 to 3 per square mile, to keep it limited and regulating them to any developer in here to have only 2 to 3 per square mile, and by doing that, by moving the setbacks off, and like I said, instead of, it's constantly inhabited structures also, well, I believe it should be occupiable structures, because there's some houses that have been sitting here, there's some old farm homesteads that are still have the ability to be occupied, but they haven't for a couple of years, because it's the family, or in the economy now, people can't sell their houses, and they're gonna hold on to them for 2 to 3 years, and what prevents that developer from going and saying, well, it hasn't been occupied for 2 years, I sent a letter to the house and they didn't get it, but the person lives in Ohio or whatever. I know I have 7 or 8 houses within a 2-mile area of me that are not occupied at this time, but you can occupy. So so instead of saying inhabited properties, it should be occupied, both. So that way they're inhabitable or occupiable. And that's up to the developer to determine whether they're not. Not up to the township, it should be up to the developer whether or not those are occupiable. Instead of saying we're going to an occupied structure, well, like I said, I got 7 houses around, some people are working on it, some people are just a family homestead that I know that I do some work for, and it's one family farm, and they don't have it occupied, but maybe a grandkid here in a few years, they may go and let him move in. But who's to prevent them from putting a turbine within 1,000 feet of that because, oh, it's unoccupied?
Did you mean to say that it should be up to the homeowner?
Right.
It's occupiable? You said developer.
No, I said it's up to the developer to prove that it's unoccupiable.
Oh, okay.
It's not whether or not they're saying it's uninhabited. I haven't seen anybody pulling that driveway, nobody's there, there's no car there, so that's uninhabited. And it's not inhabited. That's not, it's up to them to prove that it isn't occupiable.
I misheard you. That's fine.
You know, and it's up to, and like you said, you have to go and talk to the owner and get written proof to the township or whatever. I mean, that's the way it is, instead of saying, oh, it's from inhabited structures. Well, that's pretty vague. What I say is occupiable is by state laws that you can go and move in and it's occupiable, you know, or a little bit of work, you know. Some houses are repossessed after a year and they sit on the market for a year or 18 months because they're having problems with the mortgages and stuff, so. All right, enough of me.
Just to be clear, I mean, developers aren't gonna push back on that. I mean, we look at a home, we don't watch to see if there's traffic there. If it's a home where someone could live there reasonably, it's certainly gonna be considered.
Well, what is reasonably? I
structure.
I think that the developer should be required to talk to the owner of that property and see if is it occupiable, period, or whatever. I mean, it's not up to you guys to say, is it reasonable? That's up to the person that owns it. Maybe my reasonable living is different than your reasonable living, you know? You know, maybe I got chickens in my front room and you don't want chickens. Is that reasonable? Maybe not to you, but maybe it is to me, you know? It's just, you know, that's why I'm saying occupiable instead of inhabited or occupied, because that's a subjective opinion, and it's easier not to be subjective. It's easier to find out. You can have proof. You can have proof by talking to the owner and require that. So, all right.
Any other discussion points from our committee?
I think we need to set our next dates. We're going to go every 2 weeks from here on out. I mean,
we can do that.
or at least for right now, for a couple of weeks.
How long do we have? 6 months, and when is that, September?
Yeah.
Well, let's do this if everybody's okay. I mean, 2 weeks from today would then be the 23rd?
23rd.
Yeah, 23rd.
I'll be trying to go because we have Memorial Day on 30th.
Yeah, 23rd.
Yeah, we don't
is
want
fine.
to do it next week, so.
May 23rd.
And what we'll do is, I mean, between then and now, we need to go back through the same exercise of finding documents and being ready to discuss them here in
Absolutely.
in forum. So we'll go ahead, the 23rd at 7 o'clock. We can find out if the hall is available.
Oh, I'm sure it is, but I can verify that against Ron Knight, Richard, the schedules, but
Okay.
I'm sure it is.